My guests this episode are two guys who blur the lines between hip-hop, electronica and fashion to an unbelievable extent. One is a Dublin-born, London-based DJ, the other one of the most stylish, unique American cats you will ever meet. In their daily lives, they're Arveene and Shamon Cassette, but at the festival, club, gig, wherever you may find them, or even in your ears, you'll know them as Bon Voyage NYC. So Brooklyn met Dublin. How did this happen?
It's a very difficult question to answer, but we're going to try.
Okay, because I've heard various kind of like mystical takes on this story that, you know, it was a beautiful thing that happened in New York at a warehouse party and...
Oh, the mattress, the secret mattress thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few combinations of stories that align this whole project together, really. There's 5 people that we both collectively know together.
Mm-hmm.
Spoke Mutombo from South Africa. Leo from Awesome Agency. DJ Wall, Glenn Brady. I can't remember who the other two are right now, but there's another 2 people that collectively were like, well, separately actually, but collectively for us, because we knew them, we're going, oh, you need to meet this guy, you need to meet that guy, you know, Shamon, you need to meet this guy in Ireland. You're kind of on the same buzz.
Same.
Yeah.
So where did the actual meeting take place and where did this summit occur? Sounds like the UN type thing.
I mean, you can tell it from your side to start.
I mean, the initial meeting happened at a party. Coming together at the party, and I mean, it's kind of hard to tell the details. Like,
legally.
Well, there's been a few. I mean, I think
plead the fifth.
Right, I gotta come up with a PG-13 version for this one.
Well, the mattress at the top of the warehouse in the meatpacking district in Brooklyn. Well, DJ drum and bass DJ Hell, not the German DJ Hell, was playing, and I stood on someone's art, which was actually an outfit they were wearing that was made out of piping that you put around copper pipes, but I didn't realise it, and they were really offended, so I decided to move out of that space and walked into the mattress room.
The intergalactic mattress room is what it was
lo and
called.
behold, I'm not going to say there was a harem in there, but there was a gaggle of people with a centerpiece amongst the people, and
this was the centerpiece.
And I was like, who is this? And then sparks flew, and then we got chatting, and it was like, right, that's we know, such and such. He told me blah 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 blah. So it's almost like a randomness being in the same place at the same time, really, and then making the connections, like anything in life, really,
So it wasn't like an organised meeting type thing. It was kind of like you just happened across him. You were like, oh, you're that dude that I've been told about so much.
Yeah, it wasn't organised. It wasn't planned at all.
Okay, so that's like proper cosmic shit.
Fairly cosmic, and I think then we connected on Facebook.
First it was Facebook. Actually, it wasn't even. It was email.
Was the email? Was it?
Yes.
Wow, that's kind of advanced then, was it? We were actually waiting for the email first.
Yeah, I don't think there was much of the other shit.
There wasn't, because we sent you some tracks.
Yeah, he sent tracks. I don't remember. Like, I didn't even know what you guys looked like.
Yeah, we never spoken on the phone. When we started working together, and the process was slow. It was like over 6 months to a year of just talking, and then we got a track together, sent it, and when the track landed with Shamon, he didn't hear back from him for about 6 weeks, or whatever. But he was obviously busy doing what he was doing
in the meatpacking district.
In the meatpacking district, trying to get out of the harem, and then this track arrived with his vocals on the track we'd sent him. And we had to listen to it, and we were like, man, these vocals are amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But this track we sent him is just not doing it justice. We're going to have to rewrite the track. So we were like, right, let's get in the studio straight away. Went in, and we rewrote the track completely to his vocal that he sent us, and made the first track we did, Bougie, which, it was a year later after we met, basically.
Yeah.
And then we kind of didn't know what to do with it. And I sent it to 5 people. I sent it to Tiga. I sent it to Errol. I sent it to Ashley Beadle. I sent it to a guy from Pias Recordings, and I sent it to someone from Warner Brothers. And the first person to get back was the guy from Pias, and he was like, I want it, and signed it straight away.
Immediately.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then a couple of the others came back like weeks later, but it was gone at that stage, so... And that's how it started.
Yeah.
So am I right in understanding that Bon Voyage NYC is kind of like a collaboration project between a number of people, but you two guys are kind of the soul and the core of it in terms of a performance base and the faces of it and the voices in this case?
Exactly. Because actually when it started, it was the two of us and Gucci Cortez, aka Misk, aka Phil, who was like a really, Phil and I go back to the Arveene and Misk days, and he's just
a scientist of
he's
sorts.
just a scientist, man, in the studio. So but he basically, sometimes life gets in the way of music and stuff. He had 2 kids, are amazing. He's married, his wife's great, and he got a job in a tech company in Dublin. And that where that goes. And,
Yeah.
And respect to him, he was just like, listen, I still want to work with you guys, but I won't have as much time. And then we were like, this is actually great, because we can open up a 3rd seat at the table.
Yeah.
It can be a 3-chair scenario, and then invite people to come in all the time.
Like a rotating seat, kind of like when people go for office and shit. Like
Ashley Beadle, I understand, produced a couple of bits for you. I know you're close with him.
Yeah, man, he's done their new single, which is, we haven't got a release date. We've been trying to release it since last summer, since the end of last summer, September. We were trying to release it in September actually, but he's done himself and Joe Wallace and Darren and myself and Shamon got into the studio about a year ago, and we knocked out this track called High Power, which has been getting quite a bit of rotation from Nightmares and Wax George. He's played it like a whole lot. Like on his Boiler Room and in his Phonic Alive, and he's like really championed it for us. And and it's just a wicked acid house record, really. It's got the Ashley Beadle funk in it as well. So the 5 of us kind of melted on that one, and put it into the mix, and that's going to be coming out in F-Star Clear. There's some remixes in the pipelines, and we're working on some other stuff as well. So
the one thing that always struck me about your project, I remember when you first sent it to me, like going back years, and I remember thinking, I kind of, you were quite mysterious about it, because I was like, is this you? Is this a friend? And you were kind of like, yeah, sort of, but let's not talk about that. Just take the track and listen to the music. And I remember playing on the radio, I was like, I really like this, but I couldn't kind of compartmentalize it alongside anything else that I was listening to. I kind of found it very hard to kind of liken it to anything. It was very much out there on its own, which is, like, of course, a fantastic thing when you're making art. But who are the influences to you?
It's really interesting, because I think for us, we were trying to do something that no one else was doing. And that's a really difficult path to go down.
It is.
But the long game of it is a good thing. But in the short term, it's like, we weren't trying to do like what EDM or or kind of go for like mumble rap.
Right.
We're what the stuff that was kind of the hypest stuff that had not a short like life, but it was like, we were like, let's actually find something that we both love. That's actually why we got on, because we're both obsessed with hip house music from the 90s.
We wanted to be different, but we wanted to be rooted at the same time. Like hip house and those things were the root, you say?
Yeah, completely. It was the root. We both have a love for Midtown 80s New York. The classic Andy Warhol, Debbie Harry meets the Basquiat. OG hip hop crew, Zulu Nation. Kind of that combination of fashion, Vivienne Westwood's, the buffalo hats that Shamon has been rocking for the last year or two.
I'm going to come back to that, don't worry. We're going to talk buffalo hats.
We got
to
stories,
the buffalo crown.
But, so we have all this mutual respect for stuff and love for stuff. So it's for us, it's never a dull moment, because the thing is, I know there's the stuff that he's on that I'm going to be loving, and he knows the stuff that I'm on that he's going to be loving. So it's
exciting all the time.
It's exciting all the time, and it's weird. It gets to a stage now where it's like, I'm like, we buy things for each other without consulting each other, and they'll just arrive, and you'd be like, what the hell's this? Because we're like very much different, but very much kind of on a similar
cosmically in tune.
Yeah, but hip house is the kind of religion for us, It's
kind of the OG mood board.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it was about taking that style that Shamon had of being able to rap over dance records, and taking that influence and making something new, and just trying to, because a lot of the hip house stuff wasn't made very well and it was fairly loose, but we're trying to give it a narrative and make it more of a dance culture kind of vibe for what's happening now.
We're going to throw it back, because seeing as we're talking about hip house and early influences and things like that, Shamon, you grew up in Japan. Yeah. What's the story there?
Basically, my mom was like a single mom, soldier, so she was like on the base there. I kicked it off like, it was pretty much, I was going to international school in Japan, so I studied with a bunch of different students and people from different cultures and different places from around the world, but pretty much my mom felt really safe about just Tokyo and everything, so she just let me run off and run about by myself and just explore stuff. So I kind of just really kicked off and kind of doing ciphers and stuff outside of clubs, like just battling soldiers was like really my first little teeth cutting with music was just like, that was exciting for me to like be able to beat adults out in competitions, and then they go back to work and my mom gets bragged to about how her kid was out there, couldn't even get in the club, but he's out there eating the soldiers' lunch. So that was fun as a kid.
I'm assuming this would have been like Japan in the 90s.
A little bit further back, yeah.
Okay, I don't want to give
further
away.
Forward, yeah.
Because like I've seen a great code. I've been to Tokyo twice. I'm obsessed with Japan. I'm obsessed with Japanese culture, and I'm like just Asian metropolises.
That's what it is. Like for me, it's just like, man, it's like acid overload. Like it's like living 10 years in the future anytime you're in Tokyo. Like there's still stuff that they had going on that still hasn't hit the shore. It's like holographic. You could get holographic images printed out of a vending machine. Like you can't go anywhere and get a holographic image printed. So they're doing that. And like everyone asks me a lot about like drinking and just like, you know, consuming stuff. Everything you need, you just get it out of a vending machine. Like, it's no problem.
It's such a culture. It's almost like vending machine city.
Yeah.
I was almost kind of disappointed when I realized that Tokyo wasn't all like Shinjuku, in the case that everything is neon. And
right.
Crazy.
Yeah, it is a bit sad when you go to the countryside and everything's just kind of temples. And I mean, it's beautiful. It's really clean, but like no neon lights.
Even Tokyo itself, though, do you know what I mean? Because there's so many like kind of little microcosms within the city.
Oh yeah.
I expected everything to be just neon craziness, and when I got there, I was kind of like going, "Oh, like obviously I'd researched it before I went, so I kind of knew that ahead of time."
Right.
But like I really wanted to go to Harajuku, of course, and Shinjuku.
Yeah, man, because like all those subcultures within subcultures, like they really take on a liking for something and really like passionately go after it.
Oh,
that's what I like a lot about it. It's like you can pretty much be whatever you want to be. Like there's like a culture for it. Like it's really into the Speed Tribe stuff as well.
That is one thing that I will like totally agree with, that the Japanese culture, they become consumed by things, whether it's fashion, it's
no matter
like,
what it is, like they really go hard for it. Like they don't tap light on it at all.
No.
They just be it. Like
be it like fashion, doing up their cars, even their sex industry is so crazy. You got
it's
all
so crazy, like
the eels and tentacles and mad things. I've got a great story of a friend who was in Tokyo and he wandered off, and the other way around Shinjuku they have like lots of touts and guys kind of trying to bring gaijin to into other clubs away from where the Japanese guys are going. And somehow my friend ended up in this little small theatre with a load of Japanese salarymen, and he described it as something like out of a David Lynch movie, right? And I almost wish I was there to see this, because basically what happened was it was a cabaret, kind of a burlesque thing with a chick stripping and these big kind of fan things blocking, and then eventually she was totally naked. And you think, okay, just normal strip club, whatever, but no, this is where it got really fucking David Lynch-esque, okay? Like real proper Mulholland Drive thing, right? This is where it gets amazing. So basically at the end of the show she gets down off the stage and sits in like an armchair in the corner, and all the salarymen queue up really respectfully, drinking their whiskey. When you get to the top of the queue, you asked her to pose in a certain way. Now remember, she's naked, right? This is a sex club. So she would pose, they would take one picture of her on their mobile phone, and then they would bow respectfully and leave, and then the next in line would ask to pose. It sounded like the most crazy strip club experience, burlesque type thing I've ever heard of, and like that's only scratching the surface over there.
That's the most polite. That just goes to show how polite they are.
Completely. We don't mean to paint them as all sexual deviants. I'm sure there's much worse stuff that goes on, but we're just saying that
polite.
In the terms of like that they're so into their subcultures and their subgenres and everything that goes on. Do you speak fluent Japanese then?
Not fluent, like very light. Because it's like traveling so much. I've been to so many places where people don't speak a lick of Japanese for so many extended periods that you kind of just lose it. But also, a lot of my fashion dealings are done currently with Japan. So it's you kind of just like, it's muscle memory. Like a lot of that stuff just comes back, and it's really advantageous to be able to dig in and let those things spark and let it all come back to you as far as communicating. Because a lot of Japanese, they don't really speak English that well.
No, of course.
So it's kind of hard to communicate unless you actually can understand and reciprocate things back when doing dealings.
The thing that I found interesting was that I almost feel the internet somewhat ruined Tokyo for me, because you were able to do so much research, whereas I saw somebody talking about when the first wave of kind of OG UK streetwear heads started going to Japan. Like we're talking James Lavelle and like Ian Brown and people were going to things like that. And they were saying that like, even I think it was the Beastie Boys may have given the quote saying that going to Japan in the 90s was like going to a different planet because you'd never seen it before.
Man. It's so true. Like, seriously. Like, I can't believe it even now.
Yeah. But the thing is that I almost kind of felt that when I got there, a lot of the electronic stores that I would have fantasized about in the 90s, these crazy 6th floor things, it's almost like just having 6 Harvey Normans now on top of each other to an extent, you know? But when you go there and the intensity of the shopping, and it's just such a bustling metropolis, you know?
It's like going to Times Square all the time, like, it's that kind of feeling. If you've been
without
there.
People dressed as Spider-Man and Captain America trying to, and the naked cowboy.
That shit. Oh man, that guy.
So you came back to America in your late teens. I believe your uncle was a big influence music-wise.
Yeah, my uncle was actually a hip house artist himself that eventually got into raptivism and then wound up getting signed by Jello from the Dead Kennedys. So that whole spin, and he wound up doing a whole bunch of tours with like Public Enemy, Digital Underground, Spearhead, bunch of those ones, and then wound up just like, I think he actually once after a point of all that, he got into the symphony orchestra stuff. So he actually would have been one of the first rappers to actually do a live performance with the California Symphony Orchestra.
That's insane.
Yeah, it was pretty cool, like, to watch those clips on YouTube. Pretty dope.
So would he have influenced your musical taste a lot, or would you have had some before you left Japan in terms of US hip-hop?
Honestly, like, as far as the structure, because he kind of, his whole, like, structure, image-wise and sound-wise, was kind of just all of what I knew. So from that, I kind of took in all the whole Public Enemies, the X-Clans, the Parises, all the, like, politically conscious driven rap. So that was kind of like my spectrum for a real long time, and then with a little twist of electronic and dance and house stuff. So it was kind of natural for me to have like the punk side as well as the dance and electronic side, because that's just what I was like raised on. Because my aunt, like, even my aunt, she was like one of the first, like, what would have been known as like an Afro punk or something like that. She like was really with all that, and had to deal with a lot of stuff growing up, and she like watched me from time to time if I go over to the US for a summer or whatever, and just like being under her and just like learning about a lot of other different elements of like punk and rock and all those. So it just all mixed in together. Going back home, for me being the only like other kid in the family that took on rap to like kind of carry on what my uncle was doing.
I get the feeling there was kind of quite a political or social consciousness to the music you were into as well.
Yeah, big time. And I mean, I kind of get it because my grandfather was like a tank commander. So like there was like a really big like military, like militant influence, just like as far as the structure and just the mind state, because that's the way they were raised. Like my grandmother was like a military nurse, and it's just kind of like just what we knew. So like the militant mind state. But I feel like it's good, like creating a person, like as far as like the artist you are, so you have like all the perspectives like of it all.
Unfortunately, Arv, Dublin not as glamorous.
But I love Dublin. That's great.
Dublin not as glamorous, but
that's
definitely
glamorous.
Dublin.
It's got its history.
It's got its history, and it rolls deep, you know. And
it's so deep.
You know, growing up in Dublin and, you know, rap music. My first introduction to rap music essentially is NWA, Body Count, Public Enemy. So quite radical message. There's a message in that, and you're like, you know, whatever, you're 13, 14 years of age, and you're getting hit with this political message. The weird thing is, it's still the same. The message,
that's what that goes to say.
Changed,
like, all around the world, the same song.
You know, it's like those songs are still relevant today as they were back then. It doesn't seem like
probably even more so given the state of the affairs in the US.
So true. Like they're even more important now, because it's like,
it's really bizarre, really. You know. So I think, but I mean, I grew up on a diet. My background is, I guess, like revolutionaries essentially. But my family are Irish, from Cavan originally. They moved to Westmeath. They're big into the GAA. You know, there's my uncle's like.
Did you ever line out?
I played for Ballyboden St Ennis.
No way.
Dublin, yeah.
What position?
Full forward.
No way.
Yeah, it was good.
You were the superstar.
I used to smack goals in with my fist until they banned it. then I kind of dried up after that, but I enjoyed it. My grandfather, based big GAA man. When I was going to the secondary school that didn't play Gaelic, my uncle and had a word with my granddad, and he drove to Dublin unannounced, but called into the gaff, brought me down to Ballyboat and St. Dennis and signed me up and was like, you have to play, you're of age now, we're a big family of GA people, you're the...
You need to continue the lineage.
You got to go. So I was like,
some
okay.
Game of Thrones, GAA shit.
It was proper Game of Thrones, and they were all big into it, you know, they were like big, my uncle's like the chairman of the Westmead GA, you know, so so like even the girls were playing it, you know, so that's kind of, you know, I thought, you know, they're big music people. They're like classic Irish stand up and sing songs, you know, and all the songs are the heartfelt, you know, emotional, you know, so everyone sings. And then my dad's born in South Africa. He was in the ANC. He came to London, studied in London, and ended up in Dublin because there was less spies in London and it was safer for ANC activists. And Ireland welcomed them because we were brothers in arms, you know, and kin, you know, because we were going through similar struggles. So, yeah, it was kind of, and he's Indian, you know, he's of Indian origin. And in South Africa, when apartheid happened, everything is very much like in the Indian area, you might as well be in India.
Yeah.
You know, everything. So, I mean, it was definitely more like culturally the way India is, you have different segments of society, but they're all together as Indians, you know. So South African Indians have been in South Africa for 250 years. So they're very different from Indians. You know, and they're very, you know, and they have their own thing going on. So that, you know, listen to like all the Bollywood movies and all the Asian music and the Indian music, and then having this whole Irish cultural thing, and then having this African thing going on.
Quite a mixture, melting pot.
Quite a mixture, you know. And you know, we would have been kids, you know, we would have been part of the apartheid movement and just being around that. Kader Asmal, who was on Mandela's, you know, council, you know, Mandela's cabinet, and just, you know, we stay at my folks' house when we're in Dublin. And I've got a wardrobe in the spare room that Shamon stays in, and it's full of trainers, you know.
It's a museum.
I was digging in there, like pulling some stuff out, and these posters just fell down on me, and they were like from pristine. They were never used. They were from the, you know, the original elections of from the post-apartheid, the first elections. There was a series of 7 posters, because my dad's cousin took a seat in Parliament when he went back to South Africa, and he was heavily involved in politics, but a lot of my dad's mates stayed. They married Irish women and didn't go back. I mean, why would you go back? You know, like in a lot of ways. Some of them went back to do the business, and they just changed. You know, it wasn't safe. It's not a safe country, man. You know?
Was your dad ever lured into playing ga?
No, but he was brought to when he went to ask my grandfather for permission to marry my mum. He was brought to a cattle auction in Meath somewhere, and he didn't understand a word. Then he was brought to a Gaelic football game, and they didn't really understand each other. My dad couldn't understand what my granddad was saying, and it was just like, but there was a mutual respect. They were just sussing. My granddad was just sussing them out, seeing what the story was. I think my dad is like, as an Indian man, he was the first black person in Westmeath. You know? So, you know, it's funny.
I'm only laughing because I'm imagining him playing.
I can't even imagine. I never asked him, you know. My dad's he's a dark lord, you know. He's got like his many secrets. He just one day I was going through some old papers and I found he was like a yogi. Back then he had a pamphlet, and he was like, he had long hair.
Like you do now.
Like that, no lie, like
and he was
that.
doing like, he was like a yoga master. I was like, what? You were a yoga master?
And he was wearing shades like these, actually, no lie. He was like wearing some gold, like hard square.
That was obviously the thing. I was like, you never told me this. He's like, yeah, I was like,
that's some pimp sounding yoga.
Straight up,
I mean, he's a bit of a G, my dad, and you know, we're very like each other. We're piss takers, and you know, we clash, but we actually have the same sort of humor, you know. So yeah, he's you know, I guess he's been through a lot. You know, I remember going to see he would have known Steve Biko. He should have been what Mandela was. You know, if Biko was alive, he would have been the leader of South Africa. Maybe it would have been a different South Africa, maybe not. But Mandela was great, I guess, to a certain degree. But what could he do? It's a difficult, you know, throne to take. You know, but I remember going to see Cry Freedom with my dad, and then and at the end of it, it's like a list of all, you know, political activists who'd been murdered during the regime, and he was like picking them out. You know,
no way.
People he knew, you know, a few people he remembered, and you know, it's pretty hardcore.
In terms of the DJing end of things, so like hip hop was kind of an early diet of 13, 14. At one point when I was coming through, when like I got my first decks at 16, 17, and then, you know, the kind of the gigs and stuff that followed, it kind of felt like that there wasn't a club poster in Dublin that your name wasn't on.
Damn, I don't know. Like, I mean,
and a festival lineup, and it's probably still like that to this day in this country. But we spoke earlier, just before we got involved here, we were talking about your radio show that you did, and it was alongside Johnny Moy. So like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I always kind of felt that like you were almost like the protege of that Influx crew. Kind of, they did their bit in the 90s and they kind of, you know, put down the ladder and they kind of brought you along and instilled in you what they did, but let you do your own thing too.
Yeah, very much so. We were out with Johnny last night or the other night, you know, and we played this set, and I was like, you know, he just comes to me and he goes, listen, man, that was a great set. It's just, you know, so good to see you play, and you've always had your own little thing. And I was like, yo, dude, to be honest with you, if it wasn't for like the likes of yourself, Scurry, there's another guy, Dave Hales, you know, all that crew who were around that time, you know, you guys taught me everything I knew and just let me do my own thing and never judged me and never tried to hamper what I was doing or
influence it.
Yeah, I mean, they were just like, these are the tools, go do it, be your own boss, you know. And
how did you become involved with that crew?
You know, initially through my sister, because she was a big raver basically back in the day, and she was friends with all that crew, and they kind of were the Temple Sound heads and sides, and you know, they all became friends. There was a massive gang of them: Irene Shader and Peter Kendricks, and you know, Billy Scurry, Johnny, you know, Leanne Jones, and all this crew of people that I kind of looked up to. Mm-hmm. And I was aspired to be them. They were wearing Michiko Casino, they were wearing Duffer, they were wearing Stussy, they had like Billy Scurry's trainers were always like Fly, you know, and they were like just ahead of the pack, and they stood out because they were non-conformists, you know, in Dublin, and they had this whole thing going on, and I was just like, wow, this is amazing. I want to go to Radar, save my money up and buy a Stussy t-shirt for like 35 quid, which was like a lot of money.
Oh, dude, right. I can remember the 90s, right, being horrified. Was Radar the place in Stephen's Green on the second floor? Still there?
It's probably still there, I don't know.
I think it's, I'm not sure. All I remember was a place, it's kind of in the middle, second floor of Stephen's Green, on the opposite side when you come in from the park.
That's it.
And I remember seeing like a tartan Stussy hat. And my first introduction to Stussy was like Brian Harvey and E17 wearing it, right? So I'm like 13. And I remember saying, I was like, oh, that's those hats lads from E17 wear. And then I discovered it was like £40 Irish for the cap. And like when you're 13, £40 Irish for a cap is insane money. Like I was buying Chicago Bulls stuff and collecting basketball NBA hats that were like, you know what, maybe 10 to 15, but like 40 quid for a hat was just...
In today's money, it's about 4 million euros.
Yeah, exactly. Do you know what I mean?
Like, I mean, it was, you know, it was wild. It was wild, man. And so I was like, my sister was involved in a subculture. You know, she was dating a DJ. He left a lot of records in the house one time. I just was listening to them going, what is this music? Listening to like the original Sabres of Paradise stuff, all the underworld stuff, the original stuff going, and all this weird house and techno going. This is just hypnotic, you know, hypnotic. And I just got the bug and just went straight into it. And
what age were you at this stage?
About 14.
Okay,
you know, so about 14, and then it just was it's an obsession. It's hard to. It's like because when you're that age, you're a sponge. I don't think you ever stop being a sponge as a music aficionado or a musicologist or a DJ or whatever. But I just couldn't get enough of it, you know. And I started, you know, hanging out with anyone who would, and you know, tailing people and trying to go to gigs and just being like, because you know, I was sober as a judge all the time, and I was young, so I wasn't getting involved in any madness. And some of them kind of knew me, and you know, they were probably doing whatever they were doing, and you know, they gave us respect, I guess, but I never stepped over the line. I remember meeting Weatherall, going to trying to go to the Temple Sound when I was about 15. Couldn't get in, right? But they were all in the pub at Weatherall, and I didn't even know who Weatherall was. But I'd been in town, and they were going to this pub, and I wanted to go in and meet Johnny and Bowie because I was like, can I meet them? And she was like, come around to the pub. Came around to the pub. They were busy, and I just sat down next to this guy with a beard, English guy with lots of tattoos on his arms. I mean, he'd never remember this, but I was like sitting next to this guy, looking at him going, and I was like, he's got British tattoos on his arm. He's got a British flag tattooed on his arm. I was like, here, mate, what's the story with your tattoos? He's like, what, mate? And I was like, yeah, you've got like a British flag. You mad? Do you know where you are? Like, this is like the north side of Dublin, down the Quays, you know. And he's like, oh, mate, you know, got years ago and all that. And then just started having this conversation with this guy for about half an hour, and no one else was talking to him, probably because they were afraid to speak to him because it was Lord Sabre. And I just had this conversation with him as like a 15-year-old that went on for about half an hour about stuff. And then I was like, I have to go because I got to go home. I'm not able to go. He was like, oh, I'm DJing in the club. I was like, all right, cool. Well, I've got to go. I just came in to meet Billy and Johnny and they're too busy to talk to me, so I'm going to go.
You had essentially leveled up without realising it.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, and he was like, oh mate, you can't come and all, and then I was like left. And I started going, and I was like, oh, that English guy is actually quite nice. He looked a bit weird, and I had this amazing conversation with him. And she was like, that's Andy Weatherall. You don't know who he is? And I was like, no, who is he? You know? And then I went off, you know, and I forgot about that whole thing for years. And then obviously, and even like it was about 5 to 10 years later, like at least, and then the penny dropped, and I was like, that was Weatherall. You know, about 5 years later, I actually met Weatherall years ago. It must have been like, well, I mean, I kind of been 5 to 10 years, probably about 3 years later when I kind of copped who it was, and it was like, right, actually surpassed what I'd intended to do. But for me, Weatherall, Johnny, Billy, Scurry, all these guys are the same, you know, because they still have that ethos of sticking to their guns. We saw Billy play the other night, and he's still, you know, he's still the same man he was when I first saw him. He's doing his thing. He never changed. And the Weatherall's the same. You know, people like Errol Alkin are the same. You know, it's just those kind of, you know, they just do their thing.
They've nothing to prove, kind of.
Almost to prove, they just have a love for music. You know, like, you know, we're the same. I guess you're the same, man. You're someone who's always been into your music. You know, we don't change. We just still have a love for what's good in our own vision, and keep chasing the dream. You know, so the only thing that changes is the clothes.
That's it.
Dublin Distribution, you worked there, am I right?
I did do some work at Dublin Distribution. I helped set it up with Eamon Doyle.
It was an offshoot of his D1 thing.
It was an offshoot of D1. I was heavily involved with D1 Records. I lived pretty much in Parnell Street, even though I wasn't living there all the time. It was Graham O'Sullivan and Eamon. And we ran the record shop, we ran the club night, we ran the label, and we ran the distribution company. Collectively, there was lots of people involved. It was really interesting. I sold loads of records to people. I don't know if we made any money or got the money back on some of them, you know, because, you know, it only lasted a few years. But at one stage we had like 19 or 20 labels, all Irish labels. It was quite, you know, it was quite an interesting time, and it felt like something could happen. But I think if that was happening now, it would probably do even better.
Of course. You
know, now would be the time for something like that to happen, because there's so many great people making music. But it was like Daniel Jacobson, and you had Decal, and you had all these kind of, you know, I think Slug and Droid even had a label, and you had all these people just making music, you know.
It almost feels kind of like Dublin is recreating that now somewhat, but with an urban twist, because there's so many Irish hip-hop acts and soul acts coming out of Dublin right now.
So many. It's like a whole, I mean, just, you know, it's the choice of music, I think, for the voice of that generation, you know, and they're like coming through really strong. And you have the people who are like at the top of it, the Erica Codys, who are like really smashing through, and, you know, people like Jafaris who've like led the way. And, you know,
I'm actually really excited about Dublin hip hop myself. Like just over the last years, just like finding, discovering new hip hop acts out of Dublin that I never even heard of, and just being able to go back home to the US and like play them to people, and I just like, yo, what the hell is this? And it's like so dope, because it's really like, I feel like they're sticking to traditional formats, surprisingly, unlike a lot of other countries when they're like taking their take on hip hop or Western type of rap. I feel like Dublin's just full on just doing it proper.
I think it's beginning to get to that stage as well, whereby the accent has kind of just become secondary, whereas before that was always a big thing. It was always like, oh, you're rapping in an Irish accent, and then people were putting on fake accents. It's almost like this generation have accepted, this is what I sound like, this is the music I'm into. If you don't like it, fuck you.
I think that's what I love about it, because you hit it right on the head with that. I think that's what I get out of it.
I don't even think it's a Dublin thing either. I mean, we're like, you got to look at the lads of Limerick.
You're right.
Hoover and, you know, Hazy and all those guys are just like mind blowing, so good. And, you know, I think really Irish hip hop in general is just found a voice. Yeah. The Kojak's leading the way, and we've had Reggie Snow coming through, like, but I think Reggie, you know, did his own thing, and it was a certain thing. But I feel the stuff that's coming through now is almost like taking it to the next level. The Kojak stuff is like the Tribe Called Quest.
I listen to that Kojak stuff a lot. Honestly, like when I was saying Dublin, I was actually speaking of more the whole of Ireland.
Oh yeah, like, of course. I love that thing.
No, that's what I meant, like in my mind, but I was just thinking short, like just initially.
Yeah, of course.
It was really a big spectrum of it.
I mean, there's so many of them.
I love that thing Boiler Room do with Soft Boy Records with Kojak and everything, and you see them all in the gaff just write music and then go on to play Electric Picnic, and it's just like it's just a gang. It's just a gang of young lads who are having fun, love music, and they're just doing it because they're into it. You know, they're not doing it to be famous or to make money, and it's just, that's all kind of coming with it to an extent, and like the profile that's building off the back of that. But at the core of it all, it's not too contrived or anything. You know, it's honest. Just pure. It's honest and it's pure. That's the vibe I get from it. Shamon, you were back in America at this stage, and you were studying fashion design.
Yeah, I was doing fashion. I studied footwear and handbags, to be honest. So
you're a demon with a scissors and a sewing machine.
Oh yeah, I don't even need a machine. Could do it all with my hands, really. My human sewing machine.
That is very sexual, Shamon.
It's like that. It's like that, you know.
I've seen some of the bits that you've created, some very pop culture-esque things. The Lecter Mask. Was it the Lecter Mask was in Gucci or in LV?
Yeah, the Lecter was LV. The Louis Lecter.
And are you cutting up handbags, or where's the material from?
I'm just destroying the handbags. Like, I've put people in the tears several times.
For real?
Yeah, because that was the thing. I'm just be like, you just bring me your bag and I'll show you something. So I dissected it like to the screw, to all the elements, zippers, everything, take it all apart, and then usually put it back together in form of a moccasin. It's like the main thing, but couldn't do it in any other ways, but my favorite ones like that.
And like these are obviously, like I said, materials then that people would offer to you to do something with.
Yeah, that's the thing. The service pretty much presents itself as you bring me your bag and I'll repurpose it into something else.
What are some of the more out there things you've done? Like we've spent the Louis V Hannibal Lecter mask is incredible.
Yeah, that was fun. Doing the did a whole bunch of Gucci boom boxes for a while. Was doing a whole lot of those. Those had to be some of the most crazier ones. I don't know. One day, I think it was one of the delivery services delivered a bunch of food one morning, and I just was kind of up off the session and basically seen it mapped out in my head. Once I emptied out all the food, put it in the refrigerator, I seen all these bags, and then for some reason I just seen a vision of this tracksuit. So I basically just pulled out the scissors and the adhesives and all that, and just kind of just turned all these shopping bags into this like huge transformer looking tracksuit. It's pretty crazy.
And do you hold on to these things, or do you sell them as art pieces, or what's the
I sell them as art pieces. It just all depends. Like, I sell a lot of stuff as art pieces. I put a lot of stuff on display at different shops, different gaffes, like just wherever the traffic is. Sometimes put stuff in consignment spots, but mostly people just come to my studio or my showroom and just by appointment, everything's for sale. So sometimes...
Is this back in Brooklyn then, or where's this at?
I had it in Brooklyn. There's one in LA now.
In terms of luxury brands to repurpose, do we have a favorite? Will we Louis, Gucci, Goyard is very hot right now?
As far as like a favorite, I don't actually have a specific favorite because I'm more attracted to like textures as opposed to just visual stamps, really. So it just depends, because like the levels of it, like as far as like things that are workable, like I like working with Louis Vuitton material because there's ways that you can take the layers off, so it makes it easier to be worked with, as opposed to sometimes it being so thick you can't really get the needles and all that through certain bits. But a lot of people don't know, but you can actually do a process to it where you can remove it by layers to thin it. So I do a lot of that, so that's fun. That's how I did the Louis Lecter mask, because I was able to take off some layers, thin it out. But I say Gucci just because it's classic. Like, it just refers back to all the classic stuff you would think of with the whole Dapper Dan and Mike Tyson and Rakim and all those, just going to the shop to get these pieces. So the most iconic material for me to work with is Gucci. I think I'll always work with Gucci because it's just iconic for me, like, personally.
I love how the whole Dapper Dan thing has come full circle and he's now been employed to create collections.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful. It just gives a lot of people hope for a lot of things. Like, longevity is key. Shouldn't really give up. Just stick to your focus. Like, even before the Dapper Dan, like even Gucci Ghost, like Trouble Andrew was getting a lot of flack, like coming up. in the New York scene because he was just bombing the system with just the Gucci throw-ups, and then everybody was like, yeah, they're gonna get you one day and blah blah blah. He was just like,
gonna get me paid, son.
Yeah, he was like, fuck it all, I'm just keep doing my thing, just bombing garbage cans and all that. And then he got hit up and employed. So it's like, man, just to see that, like, why should I be afraid to use these materials? Like, I mean, it's giving new life to old shit. So
some of the Gucci Ghost bomber jackets are some of the most beautiful things I've ever seen.
They are. And then the personal hand ones that he's got in his studios, even more ridiculous. Like, this is beautiful. I like to see people's take on stuff.
I know. I love the Follow the Leader jacket, Eric B. Rakim, that you saw it recently.
I seen it in real life a couple weeks back. I went to this exhibition in LA, and they had the jacket in the glass case, and I almost just cried. Had an out-of-body experience just looking at it.
I had an out-of-body experience looking at Shamon's Instagram, looking at it.
Oh, man. And then the crown that Biggie wore, the famous crown, was sitting in the case next to it, like all the actual shit. So
awesome.
Had a lot of Zulu Nation memorabilia. Like, it was a good one. One for the head.
Speaking of old school things that have been brought back with a modern twist, you name-checked it earlier, the buffalo hat. How long you been rocking that, sir?
Say about 2 years now.
Before Pharrell or post Pharrell?
Oh, post Pharrell. I get all this. It's funny because, like, you could tell by the demographic of the people. I'll either get Pharrell or I'll get, like, the proper, like, Malcolm McLaren or Vivienne Westwood. But it's funny because it lets you kind of know where people's heads are coming from. But I respect it either way. Like, I dig it just for the fact that people know something of where it came from, because it's so iconic. Going back to what we were saying about, like, with the whole rap punk thing, like, I feel like they were kind of pushing hard to bring that, going around the world, taking the sounds of New York and bringing it back and forth, and with England and getting the punk shit going and mixing that up with the rap, getting Fab Five involved and everyone else, Debbie. So for me, it's like a crown.
You bumped into the guy.
Yeah, it was quite. That's what I was going to ask next. That was quite a serendipitous thing to happen.
Bro,
based
like,
on a hat.
That's the cosmic shit for real. Because, like, that's the reason that, honestly, that excites me so much in life, because you can have something as simple as something that you cherish, like a hat that means so much to you. It took me a long time to acquire this hat because they're so rare and you can really only get them from the maker. So anyone that's got them on resale, it's like ridiculous. You could pay thousands for a buffalo hat, really. So I feel like it just embodies a lot of spirit and energy. And we were actually at a market in London, and lo and behold, like, I meet the guy that's actually Malcolm McLaren's right hand man. He's in a shop, like, with all this crazy dope shit, like
Herbie. Is that
his name was Herbie. Yep.
He's part of the original World Class Supreme team.
Yep. He pulled out instantly. He, like, bugged out on the hat, pulled out an image of him wearing the hat with Malcolm McLaren just already ready to fire. I was like, this is crazy. So I pulled out my phone and fired one back from, like, 3 days ago that I had of the World Class Supreme team and him right there in the middle. So it's kind of bugged out because it's like you do these things and you don't even realize, like, the energy you're putting towards stuff is on its way back to you. Like, it just happens. Like, I feel like if those things didn't happen, like, that situation wouldn't happen, and it kind of really, really needed to happen just to bring things full circle. So it was like a big love and mutual respect, and I managed to get a couple pieces off of them. And for me, that's like, man, it's like, it's really priceless. Like, because I was like a big fan of all the fashion and stuff that the whole Malcolm McLaren and Vivienne Westwood and all those were doing, and then all the Boy George stuff, and he had a lot to do with all those looks and the inspirations for that stuff. So just to own a piece of that, like, legacy, a piece of that
influence
is, like, mind-blowing for me. Like,
you were saying that you have to get them from the creator. Does the house of Vivienne Westwood still produce the hats?
It's not even. They don't. You have to get it from World's End.
Okay.
And, like, you only get it from the shop. You can't get it offline. None of that. You got to go to the shop. They switched up shops a few times, but
I always find it crazy when you see, like, I remember when Pharrell wore the buffalo hat to the Grammys and the world went crazy. And then I saw a picture of him and Nigo from A Bathing Ape, and Nigo had one too. And like, it's always so funny just how like Pharrell can wear anything and pull it off so much. From like Cactus Plant Flea Market to Chanel, you know.
The story is Vivienne Westwood's not happy about that, to be honest. Like,
really?
She like publicly preferred that he not wear the hat.
Okay. Which is interesting. Why?
I don't know, because she's a punk rock lady. Like, she's not with the commercialism at all. Like, she just felt like it was like a stunt. I have no take on it because I like Pharrell. Like, I mean, I don't mind it at all, but it's just like she didn't really like it at all. She just really publicly a lot of times wished that he didn't wear the hat.
Somebody else who was quite punk in their approach to fashion at times, I spoke about this on the podcast to somebody before. Have you seen that Alexander McQueen documentary?
I have not. Everyone's been telling me I need to see it. I haven't gotten a chance to see it yet.
You've seen it, Arv?
God, it's mind-blowingly good.
I gotta see this
damn
thing.
It really upset me.
It?
Like it
had an upset factor.
Screwed my head up, and in the end of it, I was just left like with this vacuum of just emptiness because I was like, I'm a massive fan of McQueen.
Shit,
I've always loved his stuff. I've
that McQueen jacket you got should be in a museum.
I've got one of the old school full leather McQueen Parkers, was the first one he did.
Fur, with the fox fur on it?
Collar.
Shit, man.
Fur is not probably the thing to be talking about right now.
I meant to say faux fur. I said fox, but I meant fur.
Fur. And so, like, I've always been a fan, and with his different phases, and he's such a genius. But then leaving, that documentary or finishing it, I was just so sad, man. It took me a few days to get over it. Like, I know that sounds a bit weird, but it was just like I really felt it inside. I was like, I can't believe we lost this guy.
Yeah, like it is a sad state of affairs, particularly with the way he took his own life. But I also found the thing incredibly inspiring to watch.
Completely inspiring.
I cannot believe I haven't seen it.
Like, there's something, no matter what kind of art you produce or anything you're into, it's kind of like really inspiring to see somebody who's so pure in their approach to it.
I get that level of being the sternness in yourself, the drive, like
it's an amazing watch.
It's mind blowing. I was living where he was from, but randomly I didn't realise it till I saw the documentary where his mum and that, the house they were in. I used to live right like across from it in a building for about a year, and I was like, I didn't know he was from that block, and so for him to go all that way from that block in London was very rare.
I love the scenes of him in Paris when he first goes to the fashion house and he's there working, and it's like it's such a fish out of water because they're used to doing it their way, and then he's bringing this kind of young punk anarchy kind of to an esteemed fashion house in Paris, and just the way he works. I kind of feel it's almost maybe not a little bit too dissimilar to what Virgil Abloh is doing at Louis Vuitton now. It's like, I think he's kind of almost maybe not pushing boundaries as much, but it's a new approach for Louis Vuitton.
Yeah.
Definitely a new approach. I mean, I don't know. I think, I don't know. For me, it's just like McQueen just really upset the cattle cart, in a way that hadn't been done. And so the fact that he was like eating with the workers, the ones that were ignored, that did the lion's share of the work, and he was just put himself on a level with them, leveled the playing field. Like, it wasn't.
That's what it's about, man.
It was just so unique, and fashion is a very fickle business, and it's a very hard business to be involved in, and it's there's very little compassion in a lot of it, and when you come across, it's so different from music, and music's a tough game, but fashion is even harder to break into, and he was doing things that just weren't accepted in terms of high-end fashion, and really changed the way you see it. And the Virgil stuff, I don't really know enough about him apart from what I'm seeing. So, but he's definitely shaking things up that may not have been accepted.
I have to say, like, I was never really a Virgil fan because I always saw him as a bit of a Kanye fuckboy, kind of. There was that infamous picture of them all in Paris, and they're there with their Louis suitcases, and they're kind of out there. You remember South Park parodied it? Remember that?
Great, that South Park parody was kind of accurate.
Yeah, completely. And the thing is, like, I detest Off-White. I cannot stand it as a label. Yeah. I detested Pyrex when he did it, like, because they were repurposing Ralph Lauren flannels.
They were buying those flannels for like $2 from Ralph Lauren,
selling them for like 400 with a print on the back, and I was like this is a hustle, and like there's no creativity here. And like I said, I don't like Off-White. I see it as just a real kind of entry-level streetwear type thing. But I like the fact though that he's kind of doing something different with Louis Vuitton. that he's kind of, you know, streetwear has kind of crossed over so much into high-end brands like Balenciaga, you know, and Vetements and things like that are all now massive runway events when they show up at New York and Paris Fashion Week. And I just, maybe, how do I put this? In the sense that McQueen upset the apple cart so much in the 90s, I think what Virgil is doing at Louis is not as momentous, it's not as monumental, because streetwear has crossed over into high fashion so much right now. But I think if that crossover hadn't happened, it would be such a, whoa, what the fuck. It would have been like when Marc Jacobs got Stephen Sprouse to paint all over the Louis bags back in the early 90s.
Early, like, version of that now. Yeah, definitely.
It's interesting that, like, streetwear has just become £1,000 tracksuit in brands. You know, and you're like, a pair of tracksuit pants for £1,000. You know, or, for me, a pair of tracksuit pants shouldn't be more than 100 quid.
Exactly.
50 quid, or whatever, you know, or even less. But, you know, it's just mind blowing to see it, you know, like how far it's come, that you can wear a random pair of tracksuit pants and a tracksuit top and a pair of trainers, and you could be wearing $3,000 without even putting your underwear on. You know,
who's doing it for you guys fashion wise at the minute?
I mean,
what brands are you buying? Like, is there anyone you're kind of following, you're watching?
Honestly, I don't know. I have like a personal obsession with Jeremy Scott. Anything myself.
What he's doing at Moschino or under his own brands?
All of it.
Everything.
Every single drop of it. Mostly just his own stuff or the Adidas stuff.
I've been getting into Catherine Hamnet recently, and then I ended up doing a gig with her because I was really enjoying what she's doing. You know, I've always been a fan. Trying to think who else I've been going for. It's weird because since I started working with Shamon, we just started making our own
stuff a lot. Like, that's the thing, like, really driven towards making our own stuff.
That's what we were talking about as well. Like, the merch that you guys are putting out is like there's a quality to that sweatshirt you're wearing. Like, it's, you know, it's not like your average concert tee or sweat that you pick up, you know.
Nice. That was what we wanted to approach to be, with. It was just a little bit more than just a kind of a merch piece, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it was quite thought out, really, and then, you know, even like picking the colours on the embroidery on this, you know, and just making sure that the right green pops in the right way, and that you can see certain things, you know. You know, just, you know, we did some red shorts.
Was tested, yeah,
it's tested, you know. And I think it's like we have a whole heap of stuff that we want to do, you know, that we can do. We have basically we're in the process of putting another single out with Ashley Beadle, but after that we're looking to have a nice trip EP part 1 and 2, and that's going to be 4 tracks cover version, 4 tracks original, and each track is going to be accompanied by some sort of a video, you know. Also, each track's going to be accompanied by a t-shirt design. Also, each track's going to be accompanied by a limited edition Golden Bear varsity jacket design for the track.
I had a Stussy Golden Bear, and I think I wore it like twice. I chased it down for years, and then when I got it, I just never wore it, and it broke my heart to sell it. But I was like, it's just going to gather dust, and I'm never going to wear it otherwise, you know.
We've got loads of them.
Golden Bear. He just found me Spike Lee. Like, he had to be on the movie set to get this one from Do the Right Thing.
Is this the one with Spike's joint on the back?
Yeah.
I've seen the pictures on Instagram.
You have to be involved with the movie crew to get that stuff. I don't even know how
I picked it up in New Zealand. It was in Wellington, but like the thing about Wellington is that it's the capital of the New Zealand music film industry. So there's cats in that industry who probably been around for a long time. You know, some of them, like, I was hanging out with Sonny Oranga, and Sonny was the kid of Jake the Musson. Once Were Warriors, and there, when you know that his wife is Beck, is an amazing movie director. She just made this absolutely beautiful short movie about the female flowering in a Maori traditional Maori culture from years ago. You know, it's just absolutely stunning piece of work. But there's loads of these amazing film people. So there's no doubt that some of those people were back in Hollywood, working in the in the movie industry in the 90s. You know, and this just to walk into a vintage store in Wellington and see this Spike Lee jacket on the top, and then look at the price tag and seeing it's like converts into 60 quid.
Wow.
And then I got it, didn't know what to do, went to the counter, was like, is this for sale? and they're like, yeah. And I was like, is this the price? And she's like, yeah. And she's
like someone who'd never shopped before.
Right, like,
yeah,
is this for
what
real?
do I do?
Is this price right?
Right.
Surely it should be 6,000, not 600, you know? And she's like, now it's $600, you know, 600 New Zealand dollars, whatever it was, and it was whatever it was 60 quid. And I was going, I can buy this, and she's like, yeah, you can buy this.
She must have thought you were just some like
Idiot,
dude out on day release.
Yeah, and she's like, you know, because it's a really good nick. It's like hardly worn.
Dude, I would have passed out first and then woke up and bought it.
Yeah, it was mad.
Out.
It's just mad, you know. Like you don't know where you're going to find these things, but you're definitely not going to find them in Rathfarnham, in County Dublin, say County Dublin. But maybe in New Zealand they have a whole like history of like hip hop culture going back there. You know, from the DJ Raw, who's like DJ Raw's one of the legends in New Zealand. It goes back in the day to the 80s and stuff. You know,
Shit.
so
like myself, I know shoes are your vice. Shamon, what's yours?
Mine, I don't know, man. I really like, and I like what's my vice?
What do you waste?
Many vices.
What do you waste countless amounts of money on? I see you're a fan of jewelry and a bit.
Yeah, thing is about that, like, it's like treasure hunting. Like, I honestly spend no money on any of this stuff because it's just a matter of like hunting and gathering stuff. Like, really, I think I spend most of anything, like, it's priceless, but I just do a lot of research on stuff. Like, I'm just obsessed with useless information. Like, I'm just obsessed with like finding images that aren't on the internet. Like, that's the kind of stuff that really makes me excited, to be honest. I'm just get a lot of inspiration, like, for my music and my fashion just by researching things and like looking for images to turn into visual representations.
Arv, Air Max 1 or Prestos, where are we at these days? If you had to choose between the two.
I have to say it's the Air Max 1 at the moment. That's just so home. You know, the Prestos have like I still love the Prestos, but I just got into the Air Max 1 phase. So, and I haven't really been impressed with any Prestos that have come out. There's like a lot of new incarnations that are just not doing it for me, you know. The pair of Prestos I would probably like would be the Australian Olympic team from the Sydney Olympics. There was a really nice pair. That's a really beautiful navy with like some gold sort of stitching in it. And then I think I would definitely do a pair of the Hello Kitty Hello Kitty Nike Prestos. There was like 4 done, I think, 4 different colours, but like 2 of them were like unreleased.
Friends and family.
I know somebody that found a pair in the Goodwill in Seattle last year.
Nah, man.
They were like $5.
Don't break his heart.
Right, it broke my heart. That's why I had to break someone else's. I'll show you the link.
Oh, man. So,
have you worn the rainbow Prestos?
I still haven't worn them, bro.
Okay. Do you know this story? You know this rainbow Presto story?
I know the rainbows, but not the story.
Okay, well, there's kind of 2 stories in one, and you don't even know the background of this story, right, to an extent.
Damn.
You completely streetwear aloofed me one time, right? Completely and utterly, right? Like, we didn't really know each other at the time. Like, I would have known you were kind of a shoe head. You wouldn't have known really a whole lot about me because I wasn't kind of buying at the level that I was over the previous 10 years. But anyway, we're going back. This was one of the Oxygen years. And we were backstage and you were rocking around and you had one of these giant ponchos. And if you wind the clock back even further, it was when Adidas did the 83C collection. You know this story? It was basically they recreated 4 tracksuit tops based off one that was found on Goodwill in the States by somebody, and it had a guy's name, J Mano, stitched on the arm. And had 83C on the chest. And I think the red and grey was the original. They made like 100 copies of that. And you had like Liam Gallagher and Nicole Appleton, like, you know, all the like the Britpop indie heads were wearing them. Then they did like 3 or 4 other colours, and I always wanted the yellow one because I remember I saw Pharrell wear it and I saw Oakenfold wear it. I wouldn't be taking my fashion tips from Paul Oakenfold. I'm just naming out people. People I remember seeing it.
Boom.
And it took me a while to track one down. I think the first one was 100 copies of it, and then every other colour, the 3 other colours, there was 300 of each. So I eventually tracked one down on eBay. I paid like $400 or something for it at the time, right? Like I was in love with this thing. Yeah. Again, it's one of those things I've probably worn maybe 3 or 4 times because I'm such a collector that I don't wear things. Like I'm just a nightmare for it. I hate myself for it. But so we're back to the lecture at hand. Is that we were at Oxygen and you had this big giant Adidas 83C poncho. Grey one with red stripes, and like I said, we weren't really familiar with each other. I think I might have had you on the radio that time, and you were very much, I'm DJ Arveene, I'm playing tonight, blah blah blah, right? And I was like, I was like, yo, where'd you get that poncho? And you hit me with the biggest streetwear dick move ever. You looked down at the chest and you went and shrugged and went, Adidas. And I was like, fuck. And I was just like, yeah, I know that. Like, you know, come on, give me something more. And you were just like, Adidas, dude.
Oh shit!
And I was like,
save the chat.
I was like, I'm gonna get him someday.
get his ass.
You've got me.
So.
You got him because you got the neighborhood, and that's shitting on any of the shit.
But this is now. That was then. I really wanted that poncho. I want to know what the source of that poncho was. And do you know, like, I've done Google image searches for years afterwards and never found that poncho anywhere. It was in the OG colours as well. Was it like grey and red on top with the red stripes? I eventually got one of the jackets because they recreated them, or they did a rerun of them where they made fucking thousands when they weren't limited 15 years later. But you had the poncho and you sickened me, man. And I was just like, that prick. Oh, I'm going to make him know my name. I'm going to make him know my name one of these days. And I did. We'll come back to that. We'll come back to how I did that, Tim. But go on. What's the truth?
Do you want to know the truth?
Go on.
It's going to make you sick now.
Go on.
TK Maxx, bro.
What?
TK Maxx.
No wonder you just said Adidas, you prick.
1999. TK Maxx.
Damn, son.
Like, it was a TK Maxx find. I couldn't, like, you know, I didn't, to be honest with you, I didn't even know what it was.
Yeah.
You know, and then I just bought it and then realised it was something of value when a mate of mine had said something to me in London. He was a fashion stylist, Graham Cruz, was like, that's a pretty serious bit of kit you have there. And I was like, I was paid $19.99 for it in TK Maxx.
No wonder you blanked because you didn't want to admit. Damn, because you thought
to say pennies.
Because let's be honest, if you had about TK Maxx, I would have been like, oh man, mass-produced bullshit. But it looks to me like it was some kind of a sample because I don't know if that was ever released.
No, I've never seen it again.
I've
Graham
never
was
found it.
Crazy for it. Like, he was like, what the hell, where's this? You know?
I've never found it, but I always had that. She was like, I'm going to make him know my name one of these days. And then I did. Because
now I'm leaving the building.
Because the Rainbow Prestos were your golden goose, they were your grail. And I remember it was you. I think I'd spoken to you then. We kind of became familiar with each other and we spoke about this thing. And you said it to me like, oh, this they're the one pair that I really want. And then I saw you interviewing in text Liam Howlett from The Prodigy. And Liam was talking about going on tour to Japan, and you threw in a little drop. You were like, oh, if you find any Nike Rainbow Prestos, pick me up a pair. So because I was kind of like very much into OG Bape gear, I was buying like hoodies from Japan back as 2003, 2004. Just that kind of that golden Nego area. Like, well, I suppose the late 90s, early 90s, kind of the golden Nego area. But it was James Lavelle that introduced me to all that. And then like Pharrell kind of caught on as well, and I had that red OG camo hoodie and like a ton of hoodies over. I've so much stuff in the wardrobe right now. And basically, so I bought a lot of stuff off Yahoo Japan auctions.
Nice.
And I've introduced mutual friends to that since, man. And people go crazy for it. But I remember one day then just browsing some sneaker store on there, and I found a pair of Rainbow Prestos.
Wow.
And I remember I had spoken to you about this before, and you said you were a size large. And because in Japan, as you know, they're all quite petite, like large shoe sizes are not 10 a penny. That was something that broke my heart. Like, I'm a US 10, and when I was in Tokyo, I was nearly doing well to find stuff like that, you know? Yeah. Like, I found this awesome label, actually, not to digress, but this awesome label that took influence from the Rolling Stones during the Exile on Main Street period, and they had all these tees and like these things with like Exile on Main Street, like completely covering it.
Wow.
But it only went up to a Japanese size large, which is like an EU medium. Small, medium. Dude, these things are tiny. But anyway, so I came across Rainbow Prestos in a size L, and I'll never forget just finding it. They were for sale, and I was like, yeah, boy. I was thinking, do I buy them, boy? No, I was like, do I buy them? Do I buy them? Do I put them on, wear them, and send them a picture of me? Well, what do I do? And I was like, nah. And then I thought back about that Adidas poncho, and I was like,
just wait.
And I was like, nah. I just dropped it on his Facebook, and I still remember what I wrote, and it was just like, did somebody say Grail? And you were like, bro, what the fuck? Are these for sale? How do I get these?
Clapped
like,
you back.
Yeah, man. And I was like, well, I can hook you up with a middleman, but you had your own middleman and you got it sorted. And now you've got, like, that's years ago now. That was,
man. But like that. It took, you know, I had a pair on eBay that were like going for $25 when I first saw them, and someone dissuaded me from buying them, who will remain nameless, but they know who they are. And I had to go, okay.
Fucker.
But it was the one thing that just slipped away, you know. So that was like, I think I felt like life was complete after that. So massive respect for that, man. I owe you one.
You do. I
owe you one. You know?
I forgot about if I can go back to the Grail question, I actually secretly am obsessed. I do have some Grail shit. I like to collect the Babe Ambush Creeper collection. I
nice.
Got more than
before you crossed the Dior.
Yeah, I got I'm probably about 4 off from having that whole fucking range. It's been years and years of just obtaining them because they're so beautiful. It's just like a creeper, because I love creepers. So just like the creeper mixed with an Air Force One. And like a lot of the new heads, they don't even know what they are because they're like really not branded. Say Bape on the back. and no one knows what they are. So ill, so many colorways for them, so much.
I always found that a really kind of interesting path that Verbal took, because obviously Verbal was in Teriyaki Boys. Who was
he's actually one of my mentors, to be honest. Like, I look at what he's doing.
I think it's fascinating how himself and Yoon kind of cemented themselves in Japan in fashion, and now like she's Kim Jones's right hand woman at Dior. You know,
rightfully so. Like, she's built for it. Like, she's doing all the jewelry stuff, and then what she did with Nike recently last year was
the zip up kind of. It's a cross between Gary Payton's glove and the 180s.
Right. See, that's what makes me exciting about like life and fashion, is when things like that happen. Like,
I love the Cause collaboration. I bought one of the sweatshirts.
Oh, nice. I did like those. I like anything Cause does, really.
Of the OG Cause Chomper hoodie, and I was looking at them last night online. There's a guy selling one on Reddit, and was it the first round of Babe collabs? No, it was the second round of his Babe collab, and it's the one with like when you zip it up, it's the big teeth the whole way. And they were saying that like there's none online that haven't got cracked print because of the age and the thickness of the print. Mine is like DS in the. I think I've worn it like maybe once.
Oh man,
do you know what I mean? Like going back, I need to kind of really root through all that stuff and see what's what, you know. But like, just it's crazy when you see, that's what we were talking about earlier about streetwear crossing over to high fashion.
Yeah, exactly.
You've now got Yoon, who is like one of the big Japanese streetwear heads that originally with Verbal and Bape, now with Dior.
Dior. I think this the whole standards have shifted now. Like, that's like the thing now. It's always going to be having that going on. I feel like going forward. Even look at Coach. They're even doing it now. Their whole new branding and everything looks like.
I kind of feel though that they've seen the wave and now they're just trying to ride it.
Everyone's like hopping on, and everyone's hopping on to this now.
Name check there, just the interview where I read about your Rainbow Prestos with Liam Howlett from The Prodigy. I know you've got a really close relationship with the boys, and obviously it's been an unfortunate, terrible time for them as of late. But how did that relationship initially grow? I remember like there was the hi-fi support slot, and there was all this thing like, you know, like Prodigy specifically requested Arveene warm up, and I was thinking, geez, that's Spin Doctor-esque in itself anyway. But obviously you have a legit relationship, and I've seen you at parties with Liam Howlett and stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, Liam is just like, I don't know, we just became friends. We had mutual friends through like the Oasis lot, really, because he married Nicole. He married Natalie. Married Natalie, and
I think we should probably name that. Obviously, you have a link to the Oasis camp because Andy Bell is your brother-in-law.
Andy Bell is my brother-in-law, and before even my sister and Andy connected, she obviously she worked with All Saints for years.
Oh wow, okay.
She was their tour manager, and she
knew where it was at.
She knew where it was at, pure shore all the way, and so she had this connection with that. You know, when obviously Nick started dating Liam G. Because she was around for all that, you know, and then Nat started dating
Liam
H, and then you had this kind of thing. So I mean, obviously I was always a fan. I knew Liam H for years before I started even doing gigs with him, you know. But I was always like, just, you know, how's it going, man? Nice to meet you. And then
fanboy stuff, like we all do.
It's been cool. I mean, I'm not going to be like I wasn't ever looking for anything out of him, but I mean, and then one day we got chatting, and I was like playing him I started making music, and I was playing some stuff, and he was like, "This is great, man," you know. And I sent him a mix I did with one of his tracks, a remix he did for Method Man.
Oh, check yourself. Did they not release Your Delph?
Release Your Delph. Yeah, sorry, you released Delph. It was a Bring the Pain was the Chemical Brothers that did Bring the Pain, but and I had the track in the mix sent to him, and I was like, "Yo, check it out." And he was like, "Yeah, man, this is really good. Like, if you wanted to come DJ with us sometime, let me know." And I was like, "Yeah,
I mean,
whatever." Like, you know, he's like, "You know, we're gonna do gigs in Ireland. You know, we're always looking for someone to warm up and stuff." I was like, "Yeah, cool." So then,
I love how casual that is. Just let me know, and you're like,
like now, like yesterday.
Let me check my diary. Let me see what I've got scheduled. No, sorry, Liam, not happening, bro.
So we just became friends really, and he basically opened the door there, and I went and did a few shows, and then he just kept asking for me every time they'd come, and he was like, "No, we need to get you in." One time, he'd asked for me, his agent had asked for me, and they'd spoken to this promoter in Ireland who was doing the show, and the girl who worked in the office forgot to call me. Ooh. And then on the day of the show, they didn't know that this had happened, and they thought I was playing, and then I get a phone call the night before the show. I'm in London, doing a gig, and they're like, "Oh, here," they were like, "Right, we'll see you tomorrow." I got a message from Solomon Parker, I think at the time, going, "Oh, we'll see you tomorrow at this show in Ireland," and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And then I was like, he was like, we've booked you to play tomorrow. And I was like, no one ever told me. Then I got a phone call from the girl, and she's like,
panic stations.
yeah, where are you? You're in Ireland. And I was like, no, I'm in England. I can't make it. I have a show tonight. I'm not going to be. I have something to do tomorrow. I can't make it. You should tell me. I can't make it. And I was like, I don't know. They got someone else to do it, but you know, that was always like, you know, it was weird because I was always like fairly respectful of that relationship. I never really asked for anything, you know, and we just kind of ended up doing a remix for them as well, myself and Phil. That went really well for us. We got really a lot of radio play from it in Germany, and we ended up doing tours of Germany off the back of that remix alone. And we got offered a Rammstein remix at one point.
Wow.
And we didn't do it in the end. I don't know why we didn't do it in the end, but it didn't happen in the end for some reason. But like they were like Rammstein's people were on to us about doing a remix, and we were like, I was a bit weird about it. But obviously Rammstein are the prodigy of Germany, essentially, kind of thing. But they're a huge act. But so yeah, it was mad. We did it was a radio track in Germany. Our remix, because the Prodigy are massive in Germany, you know, apparently. So
Prodigy are massive everywhere. It's
massive
like,
everywhere.
for an electronic act, like so many iconic tracks, particularly in the 90s, you know? Like, obviously I can say this as a fan, maybe you're a little bit too close. I always kind of feel like I liked some of the bits of the last album, but I feel, to me, The Fat of the Land was the last great Prodigy album. And the reason I feel like that is it's almost like Liam stopped sampling old hip-hop breaks. I love that grimy dirt chamber sound that they had. And I think for a while there, I remember reading an interview with them when they came back with, was it Always Outnumbered, Never Outgunned that came after The Fat of the Land, like 2004? I remember reading an interview with him where he talked about how like he had discovered Reason. And like, you know, he could do everything in the box now. And I kind of felt that maybe a little bit of the magic was lost there. But what was that last track that they had, the one with the video with the guys running around crazy, and it's a real return to that, No One or something like that it's called. I thought that was a real return to form, kind of, you know, and like
it is like it's kind of, which is kind of sad. It's quite sad because
exactly, given recent events,
and like, 'cause the thing for me this year was like we went to see them in Ali Pali doing the London shows, and it was like the buzz was back to when they played all the old stuff in the show, and we were just losing our mind. Mel C was there from the Spice Girls. Wow. And we were like, I was like looking at her going, she's having it here. And then and all of a sudden she's like, I'm going up to the front. She ran up to the front into the mosh pit, and she was up there for the whole gig. And I wasn't even able for that, but we were probably like raving like at this gig because they were just going through the classics. But their new stuff was still resonating, and it had that element in it. Yeah, you know, of the early rave stuff, and you felt like it was like they were just back on top again. Yeah, they'd gone on this journey, and it was like they're back to where it was at the height, and everything that was coming was going to be like the top of the game, you know. So it was weird, man, for the whole thing to go down the way it did, and really sad. It was obviously no one expects that sort of thing. No one knew, and you know, it's still quite numbing to think about it. And I don't know, the lads are still trying to get over that. I don't know how it's going to take them a long time to get through that, man. It's just, you know, it's your whole life, you know.
Completely, particularly when you've been as friendly, you know, with each other for as long as they have. Exactly, they're family, and they've built a life together and a career, and they've toured the world and made music, and you know, it's kind of like, where do you go from here? Do you do a Led Zeppelin and call it a day, like when John Bonham passed away, or do you continue and, you know, try and regrow something? You know, it's
right.
I mean, it's time, man. It's time. I mean, I was thinking about it, and I haven't asked Liam about it or anything, but I was like, do you think you'll be able to make music again? That's just what you think, you know. Because you know, music's such a personal thing, and memory linked to trauma. Sometimes when you go through trauma, you need to move away from the things that link, like whether you live in a house and somebody dies in the house, or you know, you have something that happens to you and you're wearing a particular shirt, or you know, there's something.
It's only time, man. Time is the only thing for that.
You need to get away from it, and you get away from those things that resonate and remind you about what the trauma is. And then, but when you make music again, I think, you know, to be honest with you, I think Liam Howlett will always make music. I think Maxime will always make music. Whether we'll see the Prodigy again, I really don't know. You know, I really don't know. But I'd like to think maybe one day they might be able to get back on there and do it. But I wouldn't, you know, I'm not expecting it, you know, and they just need to just make sure that they're able to live, you know, and go on and try and find peace with it all. Yeah. And, you know, I've never seen Maxime so shook as I did at Keith's funeral. I was like, Maxime is a rock, you know, Maxime is a wall. He's 10 foot tall, you know, and he's just huge energy, and I was like, seeing him there was heartbreaking, and we were just looking at him going, and he was just like, it was sad, man. It was really sad. I'm getting emotional even talking about it now, but like, you know, it's just mad, you know. But it's like, it's life, and sadly we're in a time where this is like, it's not just, you know, these things aren't just the freak occurrences. Maybe they weren't just freak occurrences, and they were always going on along a lot of the time, but we're starting to highlight it more now. We just played at Declan Pearce's, Mark Kavanagh ran the Cause event in out of Pieta House, and you know, there's been some major losses for me in this kind of ending, you know, and you know, it seems unprecedented, you know. But I don't know if that's just the age I'm at or the generation or whatever it is. But it's just I can't even say anymore, man. Sorry, I don't know what to say. I'm like, God, it's just mad. It's mind blowing and it's sad. But I really hope, like Liam and Maxim and the entire Prodigy team, you know, I know they'll survive, and I just hope that they can, you know, grow and move on and eventually find some peace, you know. And you know, none of us will ever forget that, you know, and we'll always remember it. And we just have to live with it, you know, and grow. But there's no time limit.
In terms of influential music acts, kind of have to touch on this, seeing as you are like related to the man. How's Andy's resurgence of Ride going?
You know what? It's amazing. Like, it's just been beautiful to watch him go back into this. And like, no disrespect to Oasis and no disrespect to the BDI stuff. But the thing about Ride was always that it was phenomenal. It was a phenomenon. And when he went into Oasis, he wasn't, you know, doing the sort of guitar playing he's doing in Ride. Like the way he plays guitar in Ride is just like is phenomenal, you know. Like, it's like there's a reason the Pink Floyd asked him to be in Pink Floyd for a period. There's a reason, you know, that all these people are like mad about him, and I didn't experience it till I saw Ride. The way he played, I was like, you're an animal, man.
How many times a day does he get asked about an Oasis reunion?
I mean, every time he looks at his Twitter or Instagram, you know, like every second, every post he puts up, there's always a retort, you know. But that's never going to happen, man, is it?
Nah, I hope it doesn't. Like, I'm a long-time Oasis fan since I was 13 years old, and I hope it never happens, because I feel it wouldn't be for the right reasons.
I mean, I just can't. It's just weird. I just think that the divide between, you know, Sodom and Gomorrah there is just too deep. I don't know. I can't see anyone who's going to be able to build that bridge, but maybe they can. If they're out there, great. But if they're not, it just doesn't. You know, I'm delighted for Andy that he's doing this now, and like the Ride thing is just the new album that they've done with Errol is phenomenal. Man. Like, it's the last album I thought was amazing, but this I had to listen to it about a month ago. We went over to Errol's house. I was helping Andy. Andy was giving Errol a piano organ thing, a huge one that he had in the gaff. So me, Andy and Errol and one of Errol's office guys got a zip van and loaded it in and brought it over, and Errol invited us in. He was like, I want to play the album. So we sat down and he just ran through the new album, and it was mind-blowing.
Awesome.
It was like next level. You know, Errol is one of my biggest inspirations, you know, and it was just like, gee, you've absolutely smashed it here, lads. So, well, I mean, I'm going to be biased anyway, but I was honest with them. I was like, lads, this is actually really good. You're my mates, but like, this is fucking good. I really hope this takes this thing up the notch, because you deserve it, you know. Yeah,
particularly after coming back after all those years as well. I thought I was really kind of happy. I don't know if happy is the word, but to see, I saw a picture of Andy and Noel G together recently, and I remember like when that Oasis breakup, there was kind of an acrimonious kind of, you know, there was barbs fired in interviews back and forth as well. But I think it's great to see that they're cool now, and that everything's kind of, you know, on a plateau, and whatever else, and whatever happens between the two brothers. I don't know, but
no one will know but them, you know, and that's the thing, you know. Like,
speaking of hassles, I see some alarming news in the media this week about the Bernard Shaw and the noise complaints and stuff. This whole culture of new apartments and hotels in Dublin. I know there's an accommodation crisis, but we're losing too many venues. This is crazy, you know.
I mean, I'm heartbroken about District 8, really, you know, but that's a loss for me, you know, and I think things have to change. But I don't know. We're such a nanny state, really, and in terms of what we are and aren't allowed to do. You know, being in London, I'm like having meetings with people who have restaurants and they have a bar, and they're talking to me about they want to do a block party outside the bar, take over the area, put in a big sound system, have a street party. And I'm like, what, you can do this? And I'm like, and they're like, yeah, you can. They want us to do it. We just need to just ring the council and tell them we're doing it, and just fill out a form and pay a little fee, and then we can run a party for all the people in the local neighbourhood and all the people who come to our restaurant and outdoors and have, you can't do that in Ireland. So Ireland's we're in a nanny state. We can't do this, we can't do that. There's a lot of, we don't have Notting Hill Carnival. I remember meeting a guy who was like the head of a chair of some like Temple Bar Association years ago, and I remember thinking to him like, man, imagine we could take over Temple Bar and just turn it into Dublin's Notting Hill Carnival, or any town in Ireland, Galway. Imagine taking over the centre of Galway and turning it into Notting Hill Carnival. They just don't let you. There's too much red tape. You can't do this, you can't do that. We're not allowed to do this. And then, they're closing down our clubs and our venues. And, the thing is, I always find is that eventually there'll be another venue. You have like Lost Lane and stuff opening up. And I know District 8 have got a new venue and it's coming. So, it always comes around. So I don't, as much as stuff goes and it's sad, you always kind of have to believe that it'll come around again. Someone's going to open a venue because there's money to be made there, and as long as there's money to be made, someone's going to want to make that money.
And the thing is, if capitalism takes over, it'll just drive it back underground.
Exactly, and that will probably happen. You see that a lot in London. There's loads of underground stuff you don't even know about in London. It happens in like weird warehouse parties and people running their own events and taking over warehouses, and that doesn't even hit the surface, and it's been going on for years still, and that's a whole subculture that no one even knows about unless you're there and you're involved in it. And I think there's a bit of that in Ireland. We're doing a thing called Way of the West Festival on the 2nd of June, and that's kind of based around the fact that these people from West Cork, Sam from Connolly's, Peter, Samson Brothers, and a whole host of them, Julie and all that, and they're just putting on their own festival with their own sound system, Toby Hatchet sound systems, all their own acts. It's a non-for-profit event, but they have to run their own thing. You know what I mean? And that's, I think, and you've noticed a lot of the little promoters and little, club runners who are running their own small festivals now because they can. And, another Love Stories, there are all these amazing things are happening. And Shirkin Island, there's this electronic festival on it. And, there's a lot of small little subcultures starting to do their own thing, and respect for all of that. And even like there's like a lot of techno and house promoters from Dublin doing smaller festivals. I don't know, man. Closing venues down, it's just not good.
It's a very different landscape to kind of when we would have come through. If you could bring back like a club that influenced you, or even just tell me what clubs influenced you when you were coming up in Dublin, I'm assuming like Temple of Sound and things like that. What about you, Shamon?
No, I didn't really hit any like actual institutions. Like all the shit that I was hitting in New York was pretty much underground, super underground shit, warehouse shit. But I do have a big liking. LeBain's still there. I'm just like kind of obsessed and blown away just by the fact that there's a swimming pool underneath the disco ball, so at any given time of the night, whoever's feeling good just takes off, gets in the pool next to the dance floor under the disco ball on the roof overlooking the city. It's just like, I don't know, man. It's nothing like it, really.
How much planning permission would you need for that in Dub, do you think, Girl?
The whole country would probably come to a standstill, and then have to like shoot everybody.
Right.
But it's just kind of sad, that's the thing. Like, I don't know why we're so nannied. I don't know why it's such a big deal for them not to let the kids go out and dance and party and let off steam and exercise their rights to have a good time. But it just seems to be where it is, and people like Give Us the Night and Sunil and all the boys who are pushing the thing. I mean, we've been behind that movement. I know you have as well. We've all been behind that movement from like back in the day when it started, and we're still not there. But it feels like now the politicians are understanding that we've come to fruition, and the youth are going to have the vote in the future, and they need to take it seriously.
Yeah.
And let's be honest with it. None of this is about things only get done in this country when by the politicians when they know they need the votes. So that's the way to harness this whole thing, is to kind of use your voting power. You need to get out there and vote for people that who are going to get behind it, and that's it. That's what it comes down to. Nothing else is going to change that.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Like, it feels like Give Us the Night has been plugging away for so long. I remember doing one of the kind of awareness type gigs back in the day, and it feels like forever ago, and you're kind of questioning whether or not it's actually going to ever happen, It's just that kind of vibe for me. But just back on your career for a second, it could all have been very different, because I remember you telling me before, both of us did that same TV course in Ranelagh, and you got offered the Den. Zig and Zag thing, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it was weird. It was like I did this TV course, and I just thought like TV was a cool thing to do, and I just was like, oh, there's a presenter's course. Mm-hmm. I might as well do it, and went and did it, and then started doing bits and bobs. Did like the Festival of World Cultures for 2 years as a presenter. There was a few different presenters on that as well, like, and that was really interesting. And then started doing some bits. I don't know, just different bits and bobs. Did some stuff at Oxygen for, interviews.
It was for Heineken, was it?
Heineken TV. Yeah. It was like years ago. And then it did a documentary.
Wearing your fucking poncho.
Wearing my poncho, pouncing around in my poncho.
That you got from Adidas.
It was Adi-dazzling the world. And I think, what else? I did a documentary for Red Bull that never got released, for Red Bull UK. Anyway, I started doing all this TV stuff and did the course, and then somehow RTE got in touch with me, and they were like, we're really interested in your stuff. Come in and screen test for some stuff. Went in, it's going really well. We have this opportunity in the Den. We want you to be the music anchor, and we'd love you to be involved. And I don't know whether it was a certain amount of box ticking, because it didn't have any non-white people on the telly, or not very many, But I was like, I'll do it, but you need to let me take the piss out of it, because I can't sit up there talking about Britney Spears with a straight face, and it's probably going to be the end of my music career to do that, because I've seen other people go on those things from a music background and it not going too well. Mm-hmm. And it came like really close to when it was like 2 weeks before I was meant to go on air, and I just was like, I couldn't do it. I was like, nah.
And did they put anybody else in your place, or did they just scrap
I think they did. They put someone else in. I can't remember who it was. It might have been a girl or another guy, but it was just like, I think things could have been very different. Maybe I would have been like an X Factor presenter there or something like that. But
you could have been Dermot O'Leary.
It could have been, but I mean, it wasn't meant to be. I didn't want it. I didn't want that. I didn't want that. I was meeting people, and like my mate Scott from Mainline, he was in this band called Mainline, and I remember him just going, "What's the story you are? Like, you're doing this TV stuff. Like, what's that all about? Like, it's a bit weird. You're into this underground house and shit and breaks and all." And I was like, yeah, you're right, man. I remember just thinking, he's fucking right, man. Like, this is like not me. Why am I going to be up there talking about something that I'm not about? So then I made a conscious decision only to do stuff, and then I stopped doing TV stuff, because I was like, well, unless I'm talking about something that I actually care about or feel a connection with, then it's fake, But I got a few offers for things, and I remember once I got put into the mix on a pitch for a new Live at 3 type program.
Wow.
It was like me, Ian Dempsey, and that Irish lady called Blonde, who was like,
I remember that, yeah.
She was younger than me at the time, and she seemed to think that I was a kid, and was talking to me like I was a child. It was quite funny and kind of charming, but it was hilarious. But and I was like, and there was like 4 other presenters, and it was like they had it set up with all the presenters in a circle, and they were like filming it, going around to each one doing their bit, and it kept coming to me, and I kept fucking it up.
Oh.
And we got to like the 15th time, and they just went, actually, we'll just let you record your own and we'll edit it in. But it was like Ian Dempsey having to do this piece, like he was like a famous Irish radio presenter doing this piece like 15 times, and everyone getting it right except for me.
Jesus.
And they were like making me a fashion correspondent, and that's why I kept fucking my head up, because I was like, I'm not a fashion correspondent. This is
it's a pity you didn't know each other at that time.
I was like,
got my man here forward.
That put a nail in the coffin for me. I was like, I don't want to do this ever again. I'm sorry,
So beyond the festival dates this summer, what's in the future, both for you musically and fashion-wise, sir?
Actually, projecting in the bigger scheme of things to do a all-out fashion show, runway, catwalk thing with Bon Voyage doing the sound. So that's the calculated steps for that, and then that's pretty much the main objective. That and pushing forward with the big summer drop with our Have a Nice Trip thing. There's going to be a lot of like specially specific detailed pieces for that. So curating that whole thing is kind of at the forefront of the attention for our whole next wave with the fashion stuff, and just doing a bunch more trainers. Hopefully going to be doing a creeper collaboration with a Japanese company for a creeper pretty soon, hopefully sometime before the end of the year. That will kick off. And I'll let him tell the future for the music side.
Yeah, we've got so much plan. I mean, we've done so many gigs in the last year and a half that we're like, we need to just take a break and start working on the music side and getting it out, because we've been recording music all along. So we have a lot of demos and stuff. So we've done some great stuff. So we're like, we don't need to be out there flogging this, we need to just get our music out now. So we're kind of focusing in on that, and then we're going to possibly do some more shows at the end of the summer we're not planning on doing any festival stuff. There might be one or two that happens, but we're not planning on it. But and we're going to do a couple more shows around Europe at the end of August, September time, and then try and break over to America. And that's our next focus really is America.
Yeah, the next wave.
That's the next wave. America and Japan, it seems to be some interest going on there, so we're going to start focusing on that. And, you know, Ireland has been phenomenal. We've actually done most of our work here, you know, and it's partially because I'm from here, but it's also because it's worked, you know. So we've had this connection, and we've started getting some offers for stuff in the UK as well and around Europe, and so. But America is really where we want to focus on. So we're going to be on that for this whole summer, is basically getting more music out, working on this 8x8 project to have a nice trip, EPs part 1 and 2, and all those kind of bells and whistles that are going to come with that. So that's a lot of work. Let's put it that way. There's a lot of work for us to do. We could be busy with that for the next 5 months.
Yeah.
You know?
You're talking about the Irish connection. I love that picture of you and the old lady. Is it in a pub somewhere?
Oh, where was that at?
It was in Wexford, and that's with the phenomenal Dorian Kilfeather. She's a photographer.
Yeah.
She's an absolute genius.
It was great. That lady told a sex joke. That's what was funny. That's why I was laughing like that.
And do you find kind of like Irish people, when they see your look and they're kind of drawn to it, kind of in a curious manner?
I love it because it's unlike any other place. It's just like really warming, because, you know, it's just genuine curiosity, whereas a lot of places you can be, it's just really uncomfortable the way people try to like understand what's going on with you. Like, they don't really make you feel comfortable in the process of trying to understand what you're about. But Irish people, like, you're already crying while they're in the process of like trying to figure out what the story is. Like, I love it.
Are you DJing full time? That's your full time thing, or have you got a day job? What are you
doing? I mean, I've got involved in kind of slightly festival booking stuff with Body and Soul. Worked with them for like 5 or 6 years.
How are you finding the whole curating game? Is it hard to move around the pieces and make sure everyone's happy?
It's never easy, man. It's never easy to do anything like that, because, you know, there's like 5 sides to every argument. So, and you need to kind of keep everyone happy, you know. So, you know, I've had a really good relationship with Absolute Vodka. We're not doing Body and Soul this year. I'm kind of, you know, as much as I'd love to do it, it's actually quite nice to get a break, you know, from doing it. I've done like 6 or 7 years working with Body and Soul. So that's quite intense, you know. It takes up half a year doing that, you know, and it's not necessarily about making money, because you could make money doing other stuff, but it was just a passion for being able to showcase music and give people a chance and break people like Mixon Fairbanks and the Ciara Brady's and the Aoife O'Neills, and, you know, who are like rising DJs now, and, you know, also showing a nod to the originators like Fish Go Deep and Johnny Moyes and Billy Scurry's, who are the, you know, people who started a lot of it, you know, especially people like Fish Go Deep, man. You know, they're like the originators of Irish house music. You know, they were doing it back in the day in the 80s, you know,
and they're still doing it.
And they're still sick, you know. We actually collaborated on a track with them. We did 2 tracks with Fish Go Deep, which hopefully will be coming to light in the next year or so, and they're just like, I mean, you know, Greg and Shane have been like my inspirations, you know, from the minute I heard who they were, and I got to go to Sir Henry's before it closed, and it was just an experience that's never, like, if I could bring back a club, like you were saying earlier, it would be Sweat Sir Henry's, you know, like in that format that it was when it was Stevie G in the Dungeon and Greg and Shane and Starship Enterprise, like smashing, you know, like classic house records, you know, deep house records that with singing, you know, 2,000 people singing along to like a soul track, essentially, you know, like a house soul track in a Temple of Sound, you know. I mean, I miss those clubs. We need more of that stuff.